I think General Hospital may be setting up one of the sneakiest, most dangerous little traps I have seen in a while, and it all starts with Liz walking into Drew's room at exactly the wrong time. Because here is the part that grabs me immediately. Drew may not be as helpless as Willow wants everyone to believe. I feel that every blink, every tiny reaction, every silent second in that hospital room could be more important than it looks. And if I am reading this situation correctly, Willow may have made the biggest mistake of all by assuming Drew could not communicate. That is the real shock for me. Not just that Liz might notice something off, not just that Willow might slip. It is the possibility that Drew, through nothing more than those repeated blinks, could expose a lie that has been hiding in plain sight. And I am saying this as an opinion, not a confirmed spoiler. I could be wrong. This is just my interpretation. But if General Hospital is leaning into this kind of tension, then we are not looking at a simple hospital visit. We are looking at the beginning of a slow explosion. Because once Liz realizes Drew is blinking on purpose, everything changes. Willow's whole story could collapse. Sidwell's involvement could start leaking out. And the most dangerous part? Liz may be the exact person who puts the pieces together first. So let me break down what I think is really going on, why this setup feels so explosive, and why I believe the next wave of drama could hit harder than people expect. In my opinion, the strongest part of this storyline is not even the hospital setting itself. It is the silence. Silence is always dangerous on soaps. Silence makes every look feel like a confession waiting to happen. That is why I think Willow leaving the room, even briefly, is such a big deal. The minute she steps away, Drew and Liz finally get space. And space on General Hospital is never just space. It is opportunity, it is leverage, it is danger. I feel like Liz would not need a giant dramatic speech to notice that something is wrong. She only needs one thing: pattern recognition. If Drew is blinking repeatedly, and if that blinking feels too deliberate, too focused, too urgent, then Liz is going to know that something is off. She is a nurse. She has spent too much time around pain, trauma, and patients who cannot speak for her to ignore body language. And that is what makes this so good. Drew does not have to say a word. In fact, the less he says, the stronger the scene becomes. I think the first shock moment is not Liz immediately understanding everything. No, I think the real shock is smaller than that. It is Liz slowly realizing that Drew is trying to tell her something. She may not know what it is at first. She may even think he is just reacting to his condition. But then she notices the timing, the repetition, the insistence. That is when the suspicion starts. And once suspicion starts, it does not stop. I could be wrong. But I feel like Liz is exactly the kind of character who would not panic right away. She would observe. She would stay calm on the surface. She would keep her face neutral while her mind races. And that calmness is what would make her so dangerous to Willow. Because Willow, at this point, may think she is in control. She may think she has managed the room, managed the timing, managed the story. But if Liz catches even a fraction of the truth in Drew's blinking, then Willow is no longer controlling the scene. She is reacting to it. And in soaps, the person who has to react is usually the person who is already losing. What I also find fascinating is the idea that Liz might not immediately accuse Willow. That would be too easy. Too clean, too fast. Instead, I think Liz would carry the suspicion in her body before she carries it in her words. She might ask one careful question, then another. Then she might start watching Willow instead of Drew. And that is where the heat really begins. Because if Willow returns and sees Liz standing there with that look, the look that says, I know something is wrong, and I am trying to figure out what it is, the entire tone of the room changes. That will be my first big shock. Not a screaming match, not a confession. Just Liz realizing that Drew is trying to communicate, and Willow realizing that Liz has noticed. That's, to me, is the kind of subtle soap moment that leads to a huge fallout. And here's the thing that really gets under my skin. If Liz realizes Drew is blinking intentionally, then Willow may not only lose control of Drew's secret, she may also accidentally hand Liz the first real clue that Drew has been trapped in this condition by design, not by fate. That is when this stops looking like a medical issue and starts looking like a crime. Now this is where I think the story could get even messier and honestly much more entertaining. I think Willow's first instinct will not be honesty, it will be damage control. That is what makes this theory so juicy. Willow may not even realize how much she has exposed herself until it is too late. The moment Liz starts asking questions, Willow could switch into explanation mode so fast it becomes suspicious all by itself. I feel like she may try to act calm, maybe even a little offended, as if Liz is the one overreacting. That is a classic soap move. Why are you looking at me like that? What exactly did you think you saw? You are reading too much into this. But the more someone lies, the more they have to build around the lie, and the more they build, the more unstable the whole thing becomes. So if Liz presses her, I think Willow might grab on to the easiest lie available. She could claim that Sidwell is behind everything, and that she is only trying to figure it out. That would be smart in a twisted way, because it gives Willow a shield. It lets her sound like she is on the right side. It makes her appear cooperative. It gives her a reason for being in Drew's orbit. But I think there's a problem with that strategy. The problem is that a lie only works if it matches the emotional reality in the room. And I do not think Willow's emotional energy would match Innocence anymore. I feel like there would be too much pressure in her voice, too much urgency in her movements, too much fear in her eyes. Liz would pick up on that. And once Liz senses fear, she will start asking herself the dangerous question. Fear of what, exactly? Fear of Sidwell? Or fear of being exposed? That is where I think the situation could turn. Because Willow may decide that the only way to keep Liz quiet is to make the story bigger than she wants it to be. She could tell Liz that Sidwell forced her into this, that Sidwell threatened her, that Sidwell is the reason Drew is in this state, and that she is secretly gathering proof. That story is powerful because it gives Willow a victim role, and on a soap, being a victim can buy you time. But I do not think it will solve her problem. It will only move the problem deeper. Because Liz, in my opinion, is not stupid. She may be compassionate, but she is not blind. If Willow's story has gaps, Liz will notice. If the timeline does not add up, Liz will notice. If Willow talks too much and says too little, Liz will notice. And that is the trap. The more Willow talks, the more room she gives Liz to compare facts, feelings, and motives. I feel like Willow's biggest mistake would be assuming Liz can be manipulated by emotion alone. Liz has known enough heartbreak, betrayal, and medical chaos to see through a shaky explanation. So if Willow lies, she better be careful. Because one wrong detail could turn Liz from a worried friend into an active threat. And here's the shock I cannot ignore. If Willow blames Sidwell too quickly, Liz may start wondering why Willow already has a polished story ready. That kind of readiness can make Innocence look rehearsed, and rehearse is the last thing a truly trapped person usually sounds like. This is the part of the story I find most interesting, because it adds moral tension instead of just plot tension. I think there is a real chance Liz does not immediately expose what she learns, not because she is weak. Not because she is afraid, but because she may believe she is helping by staying quiet. That is what makes this so heartbreaking. If Liz thinks Willow is telling the truth, even a partial truth, then she may decide to play along long enough to gather more information. And in my opinion, that would be a very Liz thing to do. She is careful. She is empathetic. She knows when to push and when to wait. So even if her instincts tell her that something horrible is happening around Drew, she may choose patience over confrontation. That does not mean she approves. It means she is thinking ahead. She may decide, fine, I will not blow this up yet. I will let Willow talk. I will watch Sidwell. I will see who is lying, and I will wait for the moment when the truth cannot be denied. That is a very soap-friendly form of intelligence, because it keeps the audience guessing. Is Liz helping? Is she being fooled? Is she about to turn on Willow? Is she already suspicious of Sidwell? And that uncertainty is exactly what the storyline needs. I also think Liz could become emotionally torn if she believes Willow is acting under pressure. If Willow says she is trying to protect Drew, or says she is collecting evidence, Liz may not want to destroy her friend in that moment. She may decide to keep the secret, at least temporarily, because she believes exposing it too soon could ruin the bigger plan. That would give Willow a dangerous breathing room, but I do not think that breathing room lasts. Because secrets on General Hospital never stay in one pair of hands for long. Eventually, somebody slips, somebody is seen, somebody overhears, somebody connects one detail to another. And if Liz keeps the secret, even briefly, it might not be out of trust alone. It might be because she wants the perfect moment to strike. That is actually what I love most about this theory. It gives Liz power. It means she is not just a witness, she becomes a strategist. And if Liz is quietly gathering information while pretending to go along with Willow's version of events, then Willow may be far more exposed than she realizes. Now let me take this one step further, because this is where the story could get truly nasty. If Liz agrees to stay silent, she could also use that silence as leverage later. She could wait until she has enough proof to confront Sidwell directly, or to force Willow into making a mistake, or to protect Drew in a way nobody expects. That would be a huge payoff, because it turns Liz into the person who controls the reveal instead of just reacting to it. And I think General Hospital thrives on that kind of character-driven tension. But here is the part that makes me nervous in the best way. If Liz chooses silence now, she may be walking straight into a much bigger betrayal later, because Willow could use that trust to hide even more than just Drew's condition. I have to say this clearly. In my opinion, Sidwell is the most dangerous piece of this entire puzzle. Not because he is the loudest, not because he is the most visible, but because he could be the one person who understands how much control he actually has over everyone else. If Willow is tied to Sidwell, then the entire situation becomes more than a hospital secret. It becomes a power game. And power games are where General Hospital tends to get especially ruthless. I think Sidwell could easily believe that he has Willow exactly where he wants her. He may think he has bought her loyalty, bought her silence, bought her compliance. And that is why the idea of Willow secretly turning against him is so explosive. Because betrayal is always worst when the betrayer looks obedient. If Willow has been pretending to cooperate while secretly gathering evidence, then Sidwell may be walking around with total confidence while his foundation is already cracking. That is the kind of twist I love, because it is not just about who knows what. It is about who thinks they are safe. And Sidwell, in this scenario, would probably believe he is safe. He may not suspect Liz at first. He may not suspect that Drew is blinking purposefully. He may not suspect that Willow is slipping. He may not even realize that his own control has begun to rot from the inside. That makes him dangerous, but it also makes him vulnerable. Because the smugger a villain gets, the harder they fall. I feel like Sidwell could eventually be cornered by a simple question from Liz, not a dramatic accusation. Just one precise question that forces him to explain something he was never prepared to explain. And once that happens, I think the house of cards starts to move. What I especially like is the idea that Sidwell may think he has already won by controlling Drew's story, but in reality the story may be leaking through human emotion. A blink here, a pause there, a look from Liz, a hesitation from Willow. That is how soap secrets die. Not with one giant confession, but with small breaks in discipline. And Sidwell, in my opinion, is the type of character who may not notice the cracks until they become an earthquake. Here's the shocking possibility I keep coming back to. Sidwell may eventually realize that Willow is not just slipping away from him. She may be actively preparing to destroy him. And the worst part is that he may not find out until Liz already knows enough to make him panic. I think this whole setup works because it is not just about one secret. It is about 3 different levels of truth colliding. First, there is the truth about Drew. Is he really helpless, or is he fighting back in the only way he can? Second, there is the truth about Willow. Is she a victim, a liar, a frightened accomplice, or a secret double player? Third, there is the truth about Sidwell. Is he the mastermind, the blackmailer, the manipulator, or the man about to lose control of everyone around him? That layered structure is what makes the story feel so rich to me. And from a viewer's perspective, I think the best part is that nobody looks completely safe. Not Drew, not Willow, not Liz, not Sidwell. Everybody is vulnerable in a different way. Drew is vulnerable physically, but maybe not mentally. Willow is vulnerable morally, because every excuse she makes could tie her tighter to the lie. Liz is vulnerable emotionally, because she may be forced to choose between friendship and truth. Sidwell is vulnerable strategically, because any small leak could bring down a much larger scheme. That kind of setup creates natural momentum. Every scene can raise the stakes, every conversation can hide a threat, every silence can mean something different. And that is exactly why I think the blinking detail matters so much. It is small, yes, but small details on soaps often become the biggest detonators. I also want to say that if General Hospital really plays this out the way I am imagining, then Liz becomes the emotional center of the reveal. Not because she is the loudest or most dramatic, but because she is the one who can translate a tiny physical clue into a massive moral consequence. That is powerful storytelling. And maybe the most shocking thing of all is this. The whole collapse might start with a blink, but it could end with Liz realizing that everyone in that room has been lying to her for different reasons. In my opinion, the best version of this story is not the version where everything is exposed immediately. I think the strongest version is slower, uglier, and much more tense. I want to see Liz hesitate before accusing. I want to see Willow over-explain. I want to see Drew blink again, and then again, just enough to make Liz doubt what she thought she knew. I want to see Sidwell stay calm right up until the moment he's not calm anymore. That to me is where the real drama lives. And I feel like if this story is handled well, it could create a chain reaction that goes far beyond Drew's room. One secret could pull in another. One lie could force a confession. One silent clue could expose a whole network of manipulation. That is why I am not treating this like a simple Willow gets caught plot. I think it is bigger than that. I think it is about who gets to control the narrative and who loses it first. My personal guess is that Willow will try to hold the line too long. She will think she can manage Liz. She will think she can out-talk suspicion. She will think she can use Sidwell's name as cover. But in the end, I think the thing that sinks her is the very clue she forgot mattered. Drew's ability to communicate through something as simple as blinking. That is poetic, honestly, and cruel. And exactly the kind of cruel I expect from this kind of soap setup. So now I am left with the question that really matters. If Liz sees the truth in Drew's blinking, does she protect Willow for a little longer? Or does she turn that moment into the beginning of Sidwell's downfall? Because, in my opinion, that decision changes everything. And I have to ask it this way. When the next secret finally cracks open, who is actually going to fall first? Willow, Sidwell, or the person who thinks they are still in control of the room?